Hi, I'm Sean Smith. Welcome to Story2021.co. I'm here today with Chip House, Chief Marketing Officer at SharpSpring based in Florida. Chip is based out of Minneapolis, and he's here today to talk to us about SharpSpring's recent Agency Acceleration Program series. And it is also like this is a digital summit where they brought together top leaders, really, really big names, and he's going to share highlights from that with us. But before we dive into the series itself, I want to know about you, Chip. I want to know
Yeah,
um, about being a CMO. Tell us.
for sure. Well, Sean, first of all, thank you for inviting me to be part of this series. Super excited to be talking to other marketing leaders and CMOs out there about one of my favorite topics. So, I can give you kind of my path to becoming a CMO at SharpSpring if that would be helpful.
Yeah, please do.
So, as you mentioned, I'm in Minneapolis, Minnesota, born and raised, and I've spent a lot of time here. Obviously, I've traveled a lot, but I've really been in SaaS software for over 20 years now. And I'll give you the uh, quick set of companies that I worked with. So I started out in catalog marketing, in the 80s when catalog marketing was still a thing, at a
Thing.
company called Finger Hut Corporation here in Minnetonka, Minnesota, and an amazingly technical, analytical marketer with a bunch of loyal customers. When I got into digital there in the late 90s, and then became the first marketing hire at Digital River, which is an e-commerce company in Eden Prairie, Minnesota, here, focused on the software category. They're billion-dollar company now. And then, was lucky enough to become the first marketing hire also at ExactTarget in the year 2000, and really joined initially as a consultant, but got on board as email marketing was frankly, starting to take off. My screen just went numb for me there for a second.
No, you're fine.
um,
You're fine.
Maybe we can edit that out. And so early on at ExactTarget, the SaaS wasn't even the thing, right? And email marketing, it was the early years, and we were building a SaaS company, and it seemed at the time like every marketer wanted email marketing software. And so that's where I spent the next 12 years of my life in various roles, leading big chunks of the services team, working with industry relations and ISPs, trying to get mail delivered and build those relationships. And, I was the one who set the foundation of permission for the organization, deciding, hey, we're going to be good permission marketers. We're not going to do spam. We're not going to allow our customers to spam, which honestly was a whole very tempting in the early 2000s because people were making a lot of money, right? And so I like to think we had the integrity to look at the money in one hand, but the chance to grow a long-term valuable business by being the good guy, so to speak. And so that's what we built at ExactTarget. So I have a whole lot of love for the marketing technology space. And Salesforce acquired us in 2013, and I had a couple of great years there as well. And then spent just a few years trying to spend time away from the marketing technology industry, and I became a co-founder of a small HR company that's still going. But anyway, I ended up being deciding I had the passion to still put into marketing technology, and looking for the right fit. And SharpSpring, being a leader as it is in marketing automation, uh, seemed like a phenomenal company, phenomenal culture, and so that's why I joined. Um, in terms of being a CMO, I'm happy to give my perspective on that. Hopefully, that history was helpful, Sean.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I like the part about, sort of getting your hands on everything, because that's something that a lot of people don't understand about marketing, is that it really touches every part of the company.
Yeah, there's no question when I think about the years that I've had leading marketing, right, you end up touching not only messaging to your customers, but messaging internally. That was one thing that became really, really important to us, is just maintaining strong internal communication, strong culture that marketing ended up owning. We ended up owning customer communications, and events, and a lot of the HR activities and culture and things like that. So it's that's been a big piece of my career, which is kind of how I got interested, frankly, in HR and building cultures. Um, so having the experience of being sort of a hands-on marketer at a SaaS company like ExactTarget, in managing customers who are trying to get benefits out of the platform, gave me a good perspective, because I've worked with companies like Nike and Best Buy and US Bank and others, who are leveraging marketing technology to engage with their customers, and having run a customer advisory board as being a CMO for years as well. You get to hear the warts of the company, and what's good, what's bad, and how your customers are really using your technology. So anyway, I like to think I take a lot of that experience to the job here at SharpSpring.
Yeah, no, that's great, and I like what you said about the voice of the customer, which is not always kind, and that's important for SaaS companies to understand.
No question.
So let's talk about the Agency Acceleration Series. Now, I understand that you guys worked with Jay Baer on creating this, and from as a summit provider to a summit provider, CMO to CMO, let's talk shop for a second
Yeah.
about good, bad, and otherwise of organizing and pulling off a multi-speaker, multi-day summit in the space. Lessons learned. What surprised you?
What surprised me about it? Well, I think we made the decision, like a lot of companies did in 2020, that the event, we were doing city tours, we were doing event marketing, and bringing SharpSpring and some of our customers to different cities, and obviously that became untenable in the world of COVID, and so we were looking for something else to do. I think I happen to know Jay Baer he used to be a customer of mine. He was a client of mine long time ago, and I was pleasantly surprised when I was talking to the folks at SharpSpring that they were already working with Jay, and Jay was on our platform, frankly. So it was a great chance to reconnect with Jay. And so we put to Jay just sort of the challenges. How can we recreate a lot of the passion that we saw when we were on the road meeting agencies from across the country, and how can we continue to bring value, number one, to them, because agencies are really important to us at SharpSpring, as a revenue growth platform that's really built our entire business around the needs of agencies. Being able to bring strong content to agencies is important to us. But what surprised me initially was just the scope of what we could ideate and come up with. I think when you're used to building maybe an on-site event by city, or even like a large event that takes you months to put together, that would be the only thing that would be on the scale of what we decided we're going to do. Is, hey, let's swing for the fences and get some of the largest industry influencers out there, like Jay himself, like Neil Patel, like Ann Handley, like Seth Godin, even, by the way, which he was a dream to interview, because I've followed Seth for 20 plus years after reading Permission Marketing,
Sure.
So I think initially Jay surprised me at the scope of the proposal, that on how he thought we could set this up. And number two, I think just the consistency of the themes after talking to 14 different experts, so to speak, just a lot of consistency of message for things that they're recommending was super compelling.
Let's run through them. Let's do
Yeah.
let's do a rundown, speaker by speaker. And I've got a list, fortunately, because I saw a handful of them. But one of the reasons why I wanted to interview you was because it's hard to go back and watch 14 videos. So I have empathy for the people who, like me, didn't happen to catch Seth's interview. Still planning on going back and listening to it. But starting at the top, Jay Baer, what's it like to work with Jay Baer? A lot of us marketers will never get that opportunity. Cue us in.
So Jay, multi-time author, digital marketing expert in his own right. If you haven't read his book, any of his books, his book Utility, to me, is maybe a great place to start because it's inspirational. In that he's telling some real stories and talking about how to really bring value to your customers via content marketing. But Jay will run through walls. I think Jay is not afraid of anything, and he knows so many people in the industry, and he was excellent to work with, both in terms of ideating what this could work like, but just has his finger on the pulse of what kind of the zeitgeist of the marketing space.
Next up is Neil Patel. Neil Patel's topic was how to optimize conversion rates for clients. Neil's a powerhouse. Neil is like all over, every single channel that there is. Interesting, good stuff, always from him. Always useful. What did he have to say?
Yeah, so we kicked off the series with Jay back in August, and then Neil was next, and Neil spoke to our CEO, Rick Carlson, and we were super excited to talk to Neil. I mean, he's got this, he's self-made, right? As many of them are, but just if you Google so many marketing. Digital marketing questions, right? You're very highly likely to arrive at a Neil Patel page because he's a phenomenal content marketer in his own right, and the businesses he's built, the articles they've written, sort of the videos that he's shot. I mean, they're just great modern content marketing that allow marketers to go deep. And he's very much an example of a leader who drinks his own champagne, right? I mean, they kind of live it, and they have an amazing kind of authority out on the web. And so that came off right when we were talking to Neil, and he's he kind of drilled into that. One of the common themes, I think, was for agencies to find their niche, so to speak. But he also said, hey, be specific. There's room on the web. In fact, you're rewarded on the web and via search rankings by being highly specific and going deep on a specific content item, right? So, if you are writing content, if you want to optimize that content, number one, do a search and see what other people are writing, and how can you optimize. What are they missing? How do I do better? What are they currently lacking that I can build on, and then take the time to go deep in it. So
and I think that's
maybe
an important point for writers as well who are on this, because we have a lot of online writers, a lot of bloggers, but the idea that there is room. It's crowded. Yes, it's very crowded. It's very noisy online. There's a lot of, look at me, look at me, look at me. But yeah, there's room. Let's move to the next one. David C. Baker. Positioning agency. I didn't see this one.
Yeah, a lot of people might not know much about David C. Baker, but has been he's an author in his own right, as most of the speakers on our series were. in fact, we gave away books to people who attended and signed up for a demo of our platform. And he's a speaker, he's an advisor, but he really is firsthand knowledge of what it makes to make an agency work, operationally. And so he was the first one, and he had a short recorded session for us about the evolution of an agency and how to really lean into a specific niche. And the way, my sort of takeaway phrase would be, he said, hey, you need to first figure out how to become irrelevant to become relevant. You need the courage to figure out what you're not going to do. Like many business founders, that's often more difficult, especially if you're a small agency or an agency of one, right? You're like, I'll do anything. Just give me an opportunity. I can do a lot of stuff, and often, certainly over time, that becomes more of a liability than an asset to you, And so David leaned in and said, hey, you need to make yourself deeply relevant to just a few. And sort of similar kind of statements came out of some of the other leaders too that I'm happy to share.
Yeah. Tom Martin, turning conversations into clients.
Yeah, so Tom also talked to our CEO Rick Carlson, and he is, again, deep in working with small agencies, and he's a contributor to Ad Age's small agency diary. So he has a great knowledge of the space as well. And for him, it was all about building connections and turning conversations into clients was the topic of his session. But when I think about how I would summarize his section, is that your content helps you build connections, right? And this is sort of another distillation of the series is, don't wait to start having an opinion and getting recognized for that opinion, because that's what's going to bring customers to you. And from Tom to Rand Fishkin to Ann Handley to Neil Patel, all these people who we now recognize as, wow, they've got millions of followers. They're like, hey, I sucked when I started. That's what Rand Fishkin said. He said, he does his whiteboard Fridays, and he started out, doing poor videos. He thought he was bad on camera. He thought his content was bad. But 8 years later, when he's got 1 million followers weekly or whatever, I mean, he looks like a pro. He's recognized as a pro, and you can't wait to be the best to start. So I think Tom Martin was maybe the first person to kind of talk about how your content starts to build, helps you learn, number one, but also helps you build connections to new opportunities.
Yeah, that's great. Everything starts somewhere. So next speaker, Shama Hyder, driving momentum for your agency and your clients.
So, Shama herself, again, sort of, self-made. I stumbled across a video of her very early on in her career when she was at South by Southwest, in Austin, and she just has an amazing passion for kind of social media. And, now she's a founder and operator, CEO of Zen Media. And so she's sort of similar, I guess, hey, you're part of an ecosystem as an agency leader, and you have to hone in on what you're best at, right? So you need to figure out what you're really good at. And, she was also one of many for me where I kind of realized most agencies are sort of their own cobbler's kids, right? They put all of their creative energies and messaging and and focus around their customers and helping them build their companies, and they spend not enough time thinking about themselves, right? And so agency leaders need to really think about how they are themselves being positioned, but again, figure out what you're good at, figure out what you can say no to, and then you actually become stronger, right? Because you have an ecosystem of other agencies that do things that aren't your specialty that will then potentially send business your way. And it's especially as a small provider, and maybe that's what this series is all about to a certain extent, Sean. You're kind of tapping into a potential network that can be really powerful.
Yeah, that's great. Drew McLellan, next up, how agencies can successfully sell in 2020 and beyond. Well, we're beyond.
Yeah, we are beyond 2020 at this point, thankfully. Um, so so Drew he's a Midwesterner like I am. He's actually in I think he's in Des Moines, and like I mentioned before, I'm in Minneapolis here with snow on the ground. Um, and Drew runs the BABA Summit. I think it's Be a Better Agency Summit, and that's I think in the fall every year. So, and he's also owner of the Agency Management Institute. So again, deep in agency, recognized as a thought leader by a number of different agencies out there. And he referenced early on in the series just a concept that I've always loved from Seth Godin from his Permission Marketing book. He's like, hey, if you want to do marketing well, think about the metaphor. Hey, when if you're trying to get married, or you want to get married, you don't walk into a bar or a singles bar and start proposing marriage, to everybody that you see. You don't propose to the first one, then when they say no, you propose to to the next one and on down the line. That's a horrible way to market. It's a horrible way to get married. And Drew has sort of distilled it. Hey, you need to be interesting. So when you're prospecting for business, we're demonstrating to the prospect that we're interested, right? And which is really important, right? You have to be interested in telling the prospect about yourself and making sure that they're aware who you are. But more often, you have to think about being interesting yourself, right? Rather than just, hey, you want to get married? It's like maybe you need a better pickup line. You need a point of view that's going to become interesting to your prospects. So that's just a nugget from Drew.
Yeah, that goes back to how to win friends and influence people. Be interested in other people. I think
Yeah.
that was really the sort of golden lesson there. Chris Brogan, New York Times best-selling author of 9 books and counting. What small and medium-sized businesses want from agencies.
Yeah. Similar theme, I think, and that, like I said, there's a lot of commonality. Chris Brogan, I learned, he started blogging in the early 2000s. So he's another one I would put in the category if he started to create right before he was very good at it. He's like I am, a strong believer in Donald Miller's story brand kind of methodology. I don't know if you're familiar with it, Donald Miller, Sean, but a lot of it is about making your customer the hero and putting them at the center. And so Chris Brogan said, hey, you need to make your buyer the hero. You need to make your customer the hero. Anytime you walk in with 8 slides about yourself, right, it's a missed opportunity to start building the relationship, and you set the wrong tenor, so to speak. And so I love that too. And frankly, I'll just carry on to the next one. You haven't asked me about him yet, but Jason Swank, right? Also,
no, you missed Rand.
What's that? I'll get back to Rand, but yeah.
Okay.
So I just want to kind of pick up on Jason here too. He's a podcast savant, kind of, right? And so he's got more than one podcast that he's producing, and similar for him. He said, hey, you need to be Alfred, not Batman. A lot of agencies, again, spend all the time talking about themselves and trying to be the superhero when your job as an agency is to be the trusted advisor and figure out how to prop up your customer as Batman. And so when you're winning new customers, again, you should be talking about the customers you've helped, not just yourself, right? And so I loved that analogy. Hey, be Alfred, not Batman.
Yeah, that's true for CMOs as well. Alfred, not Batman.
I think it's true. Yeah, and you and I touched on this, I guess, before we started recording. Just the CMO sort of being the orchestrator of the marketing team, of the messaging and the brand and the culture and et cetera for the company. I'm a lifelong drummer, since I was 10.
Wow.
And so I've been in bands for my entire experience, and I still am. And it's really a hobby, right? And thankfully I have a day job where I make money, and that the drums are just I blow off steam, but I get together with friends, and some of my best friends are musicians. But I found an analogy there. As a drummer, I always say I hang out with musicians. I'm not really a musician myself. I just I play one, but as a drummer, you're sort of the backbone of the music that's going out. And so I think there's a bit of a metaphor and analogy for CMOs. They're sort of the drummer for the organization.
Yeah, one of the other speakers, Anna Angelic, talked about the 4 C's, and they were content, curation, collaboration, and community. And I think that those 4 C's really resonated with me, because I think in this time of change and changing digital landscape, the idea of curation and collaboration, which you guys did so well in your series, was really impressive. And the idea of I Chip House am not the expert on 14 different topics. I cannot be the expert on 14 different topics, but I can bring you the experts on 14 different topics. And that,
Absolutely,
for me, was like the money shot, was the real value of the acceleration series. So congratulations.
Yeah, thank you. I think, as part of that, by the way, I mean, in this coming year, when I think about what's ahead, we're looking for new ways to continue to tell our own partners' stories, right? So again, don't take it from me, take it from our customers, and so rather than just another guy like me talking about my own business or my opinion of the truth, it's like, yeah, propping up some of the experts who have deeper sort of industry knowledge.
And Smarty. I saw her interview. She did a great job. Really enjoyed it. I never thought that anybody could make me listen to an interview on SEO, and yet,
Yeah.
And yet it was really, really good. It was like, I never thought there would be a good Netflix series about chess, So sometimes our preconceptions are prisons.
I think that's true. And, Anne is, as you mentioned, I mean, she's a deep expert in SEO, and, very much a practitioner and thought leader herself, and she talks about herself as being a brand ninja.
Mhm.
But I mean, one nugget from her is you actually have a strength, what appears to be a weakness as a small company in a specific location can be seen as a strength, right? When you think about SEO and how to localize your thinking by becoming more specific in your content, where you can be, you can localize your keywords and your content effort, to become highly relevant in, easily the graphic area, in addition to a specific topic or vertical. So
Yeah,
I thought that
absolutely.
was
You can go right
interesting.
down to the zip code at this point.
Yeah,
Or even the neighborhood for that matter. And you could become the prime contractor in, XYZ section of Minneapolis.
yeah. Because I mean, that's how people search. That's how people think. Hey, give me the best X agency in Minneapolis or whatever. And so some award lists will maybe come up, or if as an agency you've done your job for your customer, if you've got strong, you're the only person or locale with strong content in that vertical with the localized connection, you're going to win. So
Yeah. No, she had some good stuff. Absolutely worth revisiting. Anne Handley caught that one too. Had a little technical glitch in the middle of it. You tap danced your way through it, pulled it out of a nosedive. It was live, and
it was like,
it was live,
yeah,
and all of a sudden we couldn't hear her. You know, so Chip sang the fight song and soldiered on.
it's funny, Anne was calling in from her tiny house, and it was it was live, and so maybe she had a little internet issue, or something with the Restream platform that we were using to stream out to all the social networks. But yeah, she fell off there. But it's, I guess, her takeaway was what I would say. When I think about Anne, right? I mean, so she's she was the co-founder of ClickZ, right, some 20 years ago, and she's a phenomenal writer herself, founder of Marketing Profs.
Mhm.
But she's like, hey, I figured out over time I just need to be authentic, and so that's what I tried to do. Honestly, thankfully she was able to get back on, and I didn't have to do the dance for that long. But one of the things that stuck with me, well, two things from Anne. Number one, hey, be authentic, right? I mean, that's how you really get followers. People can sense your authenticity, and that's how you're going to become a trusted person, because and advisor or consultant or agency, right, is by truly being authentic and leaning into that. I think the second thing that sort of stuck with me with her is, she's great on camera,
Yeah.
and she said she hates camera. I mean, it took her a long time to get comfortable with the video medium kind of period. And it's another one of those things, I think, where you try to put yourself into a point of discomfort. And I think she finally settled on, hey, I'm just going to be who I am. And that's how she approaches it. And it's worked great for her. So
Yeah, a lot of introverts in this space. Let's move on to Amy Landino.
did you watch Amy's session?
I missed Amy's session. I'm sorry. I will go back and watch it.
Well, and maybe Amy, I would almost categorize her in addition to an entrepreneur, and author. I mean, she's a YouTube personality, right? I mean, so she was. A lot of people don't think of her as in part of the sort of the traditional marketing influencer set,
Mm-hmm.
but again, she sort of defined the fact that she's going to build her content and business on YouTube almost exclusively, right? And so she didn't go and invest in tons of advertising or something like that. She kind of defined her medium, which was YouTube. She defined what she was going to talk about, which was, sort of lifestyle and self-help, and trying to be really, really useful to her audience based on her own experiences in her business and personal life. And I think, again, she's just another example of being authentic, leaning, committing to a message, committing to a target, committing to a voice, and things start out slow and they roll downhill as a big snowball, and so that's where Amy ended up.
And that's a super powerful message for a lot of the digital nomads and entrepreneurs that are going to be attending this, who are really looking to define their niche, who are looking to understand that. I'm going to recommend that they check out Amy Landino's session after.
I'd recommend it for sure, because if you're interested in YouTube, she's definitely an expert on how to approach it.
Karl Sakas.
It's actually Sakas.
Sakas. Apologize.
No worries. I got it wrong, and Karl corrected me.
Well, there we go. Straight from Karl.
Yeah. Well, again, Karl has been referred to as the agency therapist, right? Because of his sort of calm demeanor. And, basically I would distill his session to be, hey, your customers' goals are your goals. You're the, you're the critical helper, because you're making them the hero, and being able to hone their message and understand their business in depth, understand their KPIs, what makes them tick, how do they make their money, who are their internal and their customer influencers, and just kind of putting on that hat when you're working with customers is getting into their goals and KPIs in their shoes. So
yeah, I think one
Karl,
of the reasons agencies catch a lot of flack is the superficiality that some of
yeah,
them can be guilty of, and so a strong message is understanding at depth um, is going to make you a standout agency, and I think that message carries over into marketing, being an entrepreneur. All of the audiences in attendance on this is really going deep, you know, and having the courage to not just skim the surface.
and yeah, Karl himself kind of lives it. We do work with Karl. He's he's done some research for us. He's been on a number of our different webinars with customers, and he lives that. And you can feel it. He's highly authentic, and that makes a difference.
So we got two left. We got Seth Godin and Rand Fishkin.
Whew. So Rand, let's hit Rand first, right? So what stuck out to me about Rand, I think I already talked about him as being, another person who leaned into his Friday YouTube whiteboard Fridays, and became good over time. And now he's, since then left Moz, he's the founder of Moz, super deep SEO expert. And we talked a little bit about the evolution of SEO and how it annoys him that Google as a monopoly is, leaning in to how do they make more money, how do they get you to spend money on AdWords rather than, helping you game their system to get organic traffic, and sort of lamenting how that's changed over time. But I thought was super interesting about Rand is just what a decent human he is, and how he leans into sort of self-kindness, for entrepreneurs out there, which I think is an important thing to think about. And when you and I got on, we were talking about, I wish Google could just set 50 minute or 55-minute meetings as a standard, rather than 60 minutes, because in the Zoom pandemic world, you're back to back often sitting in this chair, with little time for bio or food breaks, and, Rand is a person that prioritizes, his sanity and finding his happy place, taking walks, and realizing that some of his best inspiration often comes from that walk, and I definitely, I don't often take that advice myself, but if you go on a walk, I think you'll be surprised at what your mind does. In fact, I'm tempted often when I go on a walk, I'll listen to a podcast or something, but a lot of times I'll just leave my headphones at home and go on a walk and let my brain wander. And Rand was a huge proponent of that kind of behavior for agency people.
I love that. Go on a walk. I live 2 blocks from the beach. When do you think the last time I saw the ocean was?
It's been too long, probably.
Guilty.
Yeah.
It's been over a week, so that's
yeah.
embarrassing. Let's wrap this up. Let's talk about Seth Godin, a man who needs literally no introduction.
Yeah, I mean, like I mentioned, he wrote Permission Marketing in 1999. Yahoo acquired his company. Author of 20 bestsellers. I was just, I was fanboying a little bit being able to interview him, frankly. And he's an immensely, number one, responsive human being. He's one of the most responsive people an email that I met for being as busy as he is, right? And I engaged with him, and he's just a delight to work with. But I again, Seth has, uh, he's an inspiration. He's a strategist. He's not a tactical mind, right? He doesn't really want to talk about tactics. And so if you ask him about how to make your agency tick, he'll say things like, well, you need to think about finding your trusted kind of smallest viable audience. So again, there's a certain amount, like where we started this conversation. You have the courage to be irrelevant, right? Because um, you know you should ask yourself, as an agency leader, Seth said, hey, how often are you sending potential clients to other agencies? And if the answer is never, then you're doing yourself a disservice, right? Because there's no doubt that you're having people come in from your website that don't really quite understand what you do, that are asking you to, I don't know, build their website, and maybe that's not what you do because you're a social media firm or something. And rather than just saying yes, you should build a relationship with the web team or consultant down the block that's phenomenal, and figure out how to connect them. Because again, your message becomes weaker the sort of the more spray and pray there is to your marketing message, right? It's similar to spam, just not being able to hone your message as an agency for why should I care about you uniquely, is a problem for a lot of agencies. So I just love that. Just the smallest viable audience as a sort of a way to think about positioning.
Yeah, no, that's really inspiring, and I think it's inspiring because a lot of the writers on Medium talk about getting 1,000 raving fans, and that if you can get 1,000 raving fans, it's really worth 1,000,000 views. Like 1,000,000 views is worthless in comparison to 1,000 raving fans, and a lot of people take that down to if you're in business for yourself, you really only need an audience of, say, 50 or 100 people that buy from you.
Yeah,
You're not even really looking at big numbers. You're going really sort of micro. And I think that as people reimagine work, as they reimagine the idea of career, as they reimagine how it is multiple income streams, how it is they're going to support themselves in 2021 and beyond, what this series has been about is about new ways of looking at the same problem, looking at it from a different window, seeing the thing from a different angle, and coming up with a new and viable solution. You have offered 14 different viable solutions in this. I think that this has just been absolutely insight packed, and I can't wait to write it up. Fortunately for me, I use a transcription service called fireflies.ai. I'm not doing a plug for them, but
okay.
What's nice about it is not only does it do the transcription, it also finds themes and questions and transforms the transcript into a highly usable document for me for creating new posts, for creating new pieces of content, for creating. So this, transcribed, and then with the AI, basically, multiplies this piece of content into 50 potentially different posts,
Yeah,
so I can't thank you enough for that. Wow. Took so
for
many
sure.
great notes.
Again, it
So
was their thoughts that I just kind of helped distill and bring forward. So
yeah, but who's going to go back and listen to 14 different interviews? Some,
yeah,
and I hope that people do, and I hope that they'll be inspired to go back and watch some of these. Now you also have put together a book, an ebook or a resource, as I understand from your marketing team, that you're going to
yeah.
offer today. Is that correct?
So we've distilled a lot of this into an ebook called Accelerate Your Agency in 2021. And it really is just 14 quick takes from these leaders, and so we have it available on a URL at sharpspring.com/masterclass, Sean. So if you want to get a
Thank you.
copy of that, you can do that, and we'll make sure that we keep track of the fact that it came from this location ourselves as our own. We again, we eat our own dog food, we drink our own champagne. How do you, however you want to say it, in terms of tracking everything we do. So, but sharpspring.com/masterclass, and it sort of distills hopefully some of the thoughts I shared with you today.
Yeah, no, that's fantastic. And it's been great getting to know you. We're going to sign off. Went a little long, but it was totally worth it. Thanks for your time, Chip.
Thank you, Sean. Yeah, my apologies if I talk too much, but anyway,
No,
I
no, not at
appreciate.
all. I
Yeah.
was riveted.
Okay. I appreciate the opportunity. Thanks. Have a great day.